What's up, everybody? Getting ready for Saturday Sports Countdown to go on TV and radio here in about 4 minutes. But we're here already up and rolling on social media. Glad that you joined us if you are crazy enough to be up with us on a Saturday morning like it is outside today, a little gloomy. And good to see both of you guys this morning.
Good morning.
Did y'all see Trump yesterday putting, I guess he's going to put something in motion to get daylight savings time
there's
done
two,
away with?
Well, there's two senators that already have a bill that has been drafted for this. And if anybody can get it pushed through, it'll be Trump. I mean, what is there any reason? Sometimes you just do stuff because you've done it forever, and that's what this daylight savings time stuff is.
I wish that we could meet in the middle with it because, right? I mean, I used to love it when we go fall back because it does get dark earlier, and I like going to bed early. I don't like staying up late and looking out there and seeing all the light. And in the summertime, when it's still sunshiny at 9:15 at night, there's something wrong with that too. So let's just cut 30 minutes back.
What you trying to do is steal that hour or 2 hours when you roll over in bed like you were talking about, and you see 1:15 instead of 3:15.
Now, didn't we do this when we were in ag country for farmers to get up early and there'd be more sunlight in the morning?
Yes.
I mean, I agree.
Arizona already doesn't do it.
Well, how do some not do it and others do? How's that work out?
Arizona may be the only state that doesn't do it because
that is a little weird.
They just say we're not going to turn our clocks back. Y'all can't come over here and make us.
Well, I guess when everybody else does, they just kind of operate in their own little vacuum, don't they?
Well, I mean, they already because see, I think they're Mountain Time part of the year and Pacific Time some part of the year or something like that. There's something funky about that.
No, there's specific time instead of Pacific. We specifically do it our way, right?
Luke, what's Truett going into?
He's midway through his junior year.
Videography or like media? Or what's the degree?
I don't know exactly what he's. I mean, he's sort of changed around, but he's still with the Cronkite School, which is like their journalistic.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I didn't know Walter Cronkite went there until he went there, but it's pretty big deal. So, Walter Cronkite doesn't seem like an Arizona State fellow to me.
No,
I can't see him, doing a keg stand while Nixon's resigning or something. I can't.
And for those of you, we're not on air live. If you're just tuning in and you're like, what are these guys just rambling on about?
Well, they do that. We do that anyway. I don't know that anybody knows any different.
It's a little extra this morning, but Luke's son was on the sideline, and this past weekend is Arizona State in their conference championship. Just how did that work, Luke? Where we're not just randomly talking about something.
We got to go. We got to start in 30 seconds, guys.
Well, bring it up on there too, because it's really
he just got credentialed for the Peach Bowl, so I'm going to take him to that, and he's going to get to go in the press box and all that. And I'm just going to go to the game.
That's great.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad that you joined us here on a Saturday morning. I'm going to be here with you for a couple of hours to get your Saturday started. High school football usually encapsulates what we do here in the first 45 minutes or so, and we can go back and talk about last week. Obviously, the championship games are over now. We got all-star games going on. Yesterday, the North-South game, and then the Alabama-Mississippi game today. So we got a lot to discuss there. Going to see a lot of top prospects on both sides of the field today for Alabama and Mississippi. Obviously, the transfer portal is a big deal. We'll talk Alabama and Auburn football there and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we'll be here with you. We'll be taking your comments on YouTube and on Facebook. So get that in and subscribe to our YouTube channel out there. Make sure you go and find us and spread the word if you like our content, what we do. And guys, good to see you here this morning as we go live throughout the state of Alabama. Obviously, we won't take phone calls here on the podcast, but we will be able to take your comments and interact with you that way.
Glad to be here. Glad to have Luke here with us to try to take that orange and blue screen that you've got set up for us and give a little bit of crimson flavor to it, Brett.
It's not navy. I took the navy down. This is not navy.
It's got a little royal tint to it.
Right.
It's muted.
It's Bill Belichick over here on this side.
We've got a mutual friend that is part of a bank, and he sent me a polo over, and it was, as crimson could get. And I told him, if you give this to anybody like a Brett Pritchard, there's no chance in the world that he'd put this on his body. So I'm just warning all of you out there. There are certain colors that certain members of each of our fan base. Brett, will you wear a cardinal colored shirt or a crimson colored shirt of any kind?
There's probably a good chance of a no on that. Yep. If you go look in my closet, there's not very much anything on that spectrum of the color scale. I promise you that. So, our HSA shirt is red, and I'll probably wear that one.
I've never seen you wear it.
I've worn it a couple times, but it ain't much. So, but anyway, yeah, we like our colors and stuff, so that's all good. But high school football guys, let's start with the championship since we're all three here together. It's hard to believe the season's over. Luke, I know you handle the scoreboard show most of the year. You rotate with JJ and Andy, and you guys do a great job with that. And it's hard to believe how fast we got to the end this year, but some really good football teams that we saw. We'll start in 7A. It was the same song, just a different dance again. And then you look at Thompson, they have become the premier program here in the state of Alabama. And I don't know, Mark Freeman deserves all the credit because when he showed up, I don't know how many years ago now it's been, they were a doormat, especially in the Birmingham region. And now they're dynasty. I don't know how else to describe it, guys. So I'll let you guys have a take on Thompson High School and their dominance here in the state.
Yeah, they are the new Hoover, and there'll be somebody after them that is the new Thompson. This thing certainly, I don't know about cyclical, but it has a path where I think Hoover was the show for a while, and now it's Thompson. You can't deny it. Thompson has certainly lost a few state championship games, but they've won more than their fair share, and they're always there. This is what Hoover did was kind of reminiscent of what Nick Saban did for a while. Then Thompson's doing it, and then some Central Phoenix City, my guess is, will be next. But it's pretty incredible to be in this run. And I always think about when we go talk about being at Alabama or Auburn, or you talk about some of you guys being at BRHS, or what about these kids at Thompson right now, that the ones that have been in the system from first grade through 12th grade, and they don't know anything but winning. And you think about how that permeates the program and how that hopefully permeates them as people, and they want to do that well in life too. So, football is such a great team sport and such a character builder, even if you're not playing it, even if you're just cheering for that particular team because you're going to school there. And it's pretty amazing to see what Hoover did for so long, what Thompson did. And again, I'm guessing it's going to be Central Phoenix City, but somebody else may pop up like an Auburn or something.
Well, you can get caught up looking at records and think that Thompson took a step back this year, but if you look at it, they lost a lot of very close games and a couple of them out of state. And so with that being said, Thompson has been the premier program here in the state of Alabama for the last decade. And the investment that the community of Alabaster put into that school system, and to have the vision to go out there and hire one of the best high school coaches in the country when he was already winning and had been winning at Spanish Fort, and bring Mark Freeman back to the Birmingham area. And people find great coaches, great people, and great programs. You can like it or dislike it. You can have a problem with players that were playing at one program last year and now at a different program this year. Here's where the three of us sit. You'll find a good avenue for your kids to have success. And if you sense that the leadership that they're getting, say at Thompson High School, and you're living over in the Birmingham market, I'm going to find my way to Mark Freeman and get him in that program and try to do it early and probably have great success. I mean, you look at Auburn, I said this, Luke, and I'll get your thoughts on it because I know you've talked about it, but Caleb Harris this year for Auburn was a massive bright spot on the defense that I don't know that a lot of recruitniks expected him to come in and have as big a splash as he did in year one. And I think that part of that is coming out of a big time program that's really playing a regional schedule, not just a state schedule. And, you know, Alabama's taken that path a lot too and gone and recruited some of the top programs in high school football in the country. And those guys are really ready for the college game when they come out at 18, 19 years old, and they're able to come into school early. They're there for, instead of 3 weeks like it used to be when the three of us were going through high school and then going into college, now they're there 6 months before that first game starts. But just your thoughts, and then we'll get yours, Brett. But that was a massive bright spot for Auburn this year coming out of that Thompson program, and he wasn't as highly regarded as Anquan Fagans and some of these guys that we're getting out of Thompson this year.
It is rather odd. I mean, for whatever reason, Caleb Harris being an exception so far, a lot of the Thompson guys, though, haven't gone on to great success at the collegiate level. I don't know why. It defies logic a little bit. Maybe because they have so many good players at Thompson that they can afford to be more dominant there or something. But I know that a lot of the Thompson guys that have certainly made their way to Alabama, it's not like they've been failures. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that they have not become stars. Talia Tungavailoa, I guess, is the lone exception that I can think of. But, you know, he transferred and went to Maryland. And yeah, he set a lot of records at Maryland, but there wasn't a lot of winning. Now, maybe that was because of what was around him. But I think of somebody like a Jeremiah Alexander. Peter Woods at Clemson has been pretty good. I wouldn't say – I mean, he's not making any All-American lists, and he's been there 2 years, and we all thought he would. I mean, we thought he was, a bananas talent, and he is very, very good. But again, it's not like he's an All-American. It's a little weird to me that that's happened. But going back to the coaching side of it, you know, it is a good lesson for anybody out there looking for a coach. Sometimes when you fire a coach and maybe you pay him a big buyout and you're thinking, God, we can't just go out there and spend all this money on a coach again. We got to take a chance on somebody. Well, then you might just be in the same thing. I mean, the best thing to do is, you know, reach deep in your pockets and go get you a Mark Freeman type. You know, Mark Freeman was about as close to can't miss as you can be. And if he's out there, go get him. Now, if there's not a Mark Freeman out there, okay, maybe swing for somebody a little lesser known and see what happens. But when a program like Thompson says, okay, we want to get on the map, you don't get on the map by hiring some no-name that is nobody knows his path, nobody knows his history, nobody knows where he's going to lead you. You get on the map by hiring a Mark Freeman who had already created a juggernaut in South Alabama.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead. We're up against our first break here on TV and radio. We'll go ahead and take a stop here. We'll continue to stay up on social media throughout. But get your comments in. We know they're coming in now. Go ahead and take our first break. Stay tuned. Just getting started here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Keep leading us in, Brett. Whoever you want to get a take from, you call it, okay?
That's fine with me. I'll just rotate through like that.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
If you got one that you bring up that you want to get from one or the other, you say it though, and that'll help me and Luke, because you know the two of us don't mind talking. We'll talk on top of each other.
Y'all just
from the start of this show to the end.
Just roll with it.
But you're right, Luke. Talia he had good success. I was trying to think of some others.
But I don't even know where. I mean, he's not in the NFL. I don't know where he is.
Alabama's got most of the Thompson guys.
Who was the kid that flip-flopped, the defensive back between Auburn and Alabama?
Tony Mitchell.
Tony Mitchell then got arrested. Yeah.
He didn't pan out. Well, you know, I think he was committed to A&M, and then he flipped, and then he was going to flip to Auburn, and then he didn't.
That's the one Jason drove up there and pulled over in the Popeyes parking lot, and that was terrible, man. Don't do somebody like that, dude.
Well, I'll say this. Part of that's on Jason. If anybody ever says, "Hey, I got this deal going down. Meet me at the Popeyes parking lot," you say, We can go to Church's. We can go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. We can go. So we ain't going to Popeyes.
Oh, man.
I mean, I had this. I do like Jason, but I had this mental image of just Jason sitting over there with a 2-piece meal, like, and he'd already ordered a drink and a biscuit for Tony Mitchell, and he's just sitting there waiting. But the chicken's getting cold.
I bet Jason's got a different version of that.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I hadn't brought it up to him. I figure it's bad memories.
Oh, there's no doubt. I did, of course. You know I did. I said, man, what? He's like, dude, I had never in my life been so mad.
Well,
I don't blame him. I don't blame him, dude. I mean,
well, what's funny is I think Auburn was moderately recruiting him again. I don't know if he ended up at Mississippi State. I think he was committed to Mississippi State.
Justice, a great kid.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he ended up signing with Mississippi State or not, but
he don't either.
No, if he used any of that stuff he had in that car, he doesn't know. I mean, God, what do you have to do to? I mean, there's just so many things that you go. The other night in the NFL game, that man just said, "I'm not going in," and just went to the locker room.
I've never seen anything like that.
And then like Jamel, what's her name, Hill.
Oh Lord,
she was like, "Well, we need to check on, make sure his mental health."
Immediately when you start defending something like that, you are the problem. Oh, we got 30 seconds, guys.
That was just all. He said, "Go in." He said, "No," and then he just went to the locker room.
He said,
"Hey, let me give y'all a quick Austin Robinson story."
12 seconds.
Remind me not going in Austin when we come back from break.
Okay,
Luke, it's great, and it's not him not going in, by the way.
Oh, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Want to remind everybody for Christmas, if you're looking for food to provide for your family and parties, catering, JR Sports Bar and Grill is the place to go. Man, their business has been outstanding this year. I had a chance to talk to Chris a couple of days ago when I was in there for a lunch meeting, and they've had an outstanding year, and it's because of everybody in this area that goes there and has been supporting them, because they've supported this community for so long, for 25 plus years now. Can y'all believe it's already been a year since their 25th? Me and Luke were just talking about that. He just celebrated his 10th year wedding anniversary last night. 10 years, man. It just mind blowing how fast time goes by. But check out Jay.
Krista said, "Speak for your damn self." I feel like we've been in purgatory.
hey, you know what? Time goes faster or slower depending on who you are, right?
She said, "I've only been in this thing 10 years."
Oh my Lord! But anyway, we're back, and we're glad that you joined us. We're going to get to some of these comments because Bubba has ridden me for about 3 or 4 weeks on this Moody team. It's not that I slept on them, but we didn't talk about them near like we should, and they were close to getting a state championship. We're going to dive into that here in just a minute because he says inadvertent whistle cost Moody a state championship, a team that Brett was sleeping on. My thoughts on that. I'll give my thoughts on that here in just a second, but we're going to shift down. Randy, you got a story you want to give everybody?
No, I'm gonna give that one during the break. You're gonna have to stay up.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That'll have to be a social media one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This one's an Austin Robinson in high school story, and most of those can't be said live on television.
All right, well, let's shift down to 6A football, and again, we thought this was going to be a good football game. Randy, you and I had the honor of calling this one on the network. Parker and Saraland. We had 2 really good games that we were able to call. That 6A game, Parker wins 28-17. They get that score there late to kind of put it away. But just kind of start with you, then I'll get Luke's thoughts. Just talent on both sides of the field. You and I have already given our take for a week on this on the Auburn Blitz. But Jordan Crawford, obviously, and Naeem Offord stood out. We knew they would. Just created so much havoc and disruption in the backfield for KJ Lacey and just kept their offense off track pretty much the entire game. And we knew Jordan Crawford was good, but man, he really showed out in this football game.
He did. I want to start with the coaching staff for Parker. I thought they were very well prepared, Brett. They did some things coming out of timeouts and some fourth down conversion plays that they called, that they dialed up perfect. The first touchdown by Merritt was eye candy to Naeem Alford. He pulls it the first time he touches the football in the game, back really at a wildcat position, and shows the give on the speed sweep and takes it 15 yards around left end on a fourth down play. I mean, it was just a thing of beauty. And Brett said it a couple of times on air. That's what kind of athlete Merritt is, which, by the way, Parker's got 3 players playing in this Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game today, and those are the 3, Naeem Alford, Merritt, and Jordan Crawford. But the second time he touched the football, the same thing, show eye candy to Naeem Alford, lined up beside him in the backfield, and then take it the opposite direction and score another touchdown. So 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. But I felt like the coaching was really good for Parker, really good. And I had you and I did a podcast on the Monday following, and we had several comments that said the same thing, Brett. So I'll start there. I thought both teams were, of course, very well coached. Jeff Kelly's as good as we have here in the state, and he's the head coach today for Team Alabama. But Jordan Crawford was the standout, and it takes it against Saraland. They came in averaging 43.5 points per game. So to hold them down under 20 was the story of the football game, and their disruption in the backfield was the big-time story. And, yes, Jordan Crawford was one, but Cleveland was the other. And a host of other jack linebacker, defensive end, linebacker-looking athletes there at Parker. And there's another 4 or 5 of those that were making plays out there. They're very talented, very well coached, deserve the state championship. And you could tell, Luke, the city of Birmingham was really excited about it because it was the first state title in Parker's history.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal. And Parker is just loaded with athletes, and they've got them at the right places. And Merritt, I mean, they've got 4 guys. They've got a guy committed to Oregon, a guy committed to Tennessee, a guy committed to Auburn, a guy committed to Alabama. I mean, if you're in 6A and you got 4 dudes and none of them are kickers that are committed to those 4 schools, you're probably going to win a lot of games. And I'll tell you, though, I'm like you. I'm impressed by the coaching staff because I did watch the game on NFHS when they played Mountain Brook earlier in the playoffs, and they struck me as being like we play on our talent, and that's kind of it at the time because I hadn't seen them play a lot, obviously. They had a pretty undisciplined play with the one kid laid out another kid from Mountain Brook. I mean, it really just was not the kind of tackle you want to see in a game, and it was intentional to a degree. I don't know that he necessarily meant to hurt him, and the kid wasn't that hurt, I don't think, but it was one of those tackles where you go, we don't want anybody even teaching that. So, I mean, how did he learn to do that kind of thing? And so my initial impression was, I hope this team is a little more disciplined in that. And they were, and the coaching staff got them together, and their coaching staff they're the real deal. Now, will Parker be that good next year? I mean, of the 4 guys that I mentioned going to those schools, only Cleveland's coming back. But I'm willing to bet, you guys saw them, I'm willing to bet they got some other dudes on that team.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think they'll take a step back a little bit because when you lose 3 players like they've got, you're going to take a step back. I don't care who you are. But they'll figure it out. And that coaching staff, I'm with both of you. Very impressed with their ability to call a timeout at the right opportunity and get their team in the right set. It's really good coaching. Randy and I've talked about that over the years in different games, calling Benjamin Russell. We were very impressed with Percy Julian's coaching staff this year. Very athletic team, and maybe didn't get as much credit for, what they were able to do as a team as far as coaching and strategy. But I was impressed with them. And I thought they had a team that warranted, that was getting better and warranted some praise there as well. So big time win for Parker. And, KJ Lacey, unfortunate for him, he fell a little bit short 2 years in a row. ran up on two really good teams, and that's what happens a lot of times when you get to a state championship game.
Let me jump in there real quick. Let me ask Luke. Luke, did Auburn or Alabama go after Lacey hard? Either?
Now, I think my understanding is Auburn's plan was to, if Deuce Knight had flipped right at the last second, see what happens. But no, Alabama focused in on Keelan Russell, and I'm happy they did because he's really good. And I like KJ Lacey. I found it weird. Alabama got who is now the National Gatorade Player of the Year, and Keelan Russell from Duncanville, Texas. And Texas came to Alabama and got KJ Lacey. It's just, I think at the time Lacey was more developed than Keelan Russell. And I think as time moved on, obviously Russell moved ahead. And by that time, Alabama had a good foothold, and Texas already had KJ Lacey's commitment. So I think that's what happened.
All right, we'll go ahead and take another break, and then we'll come back and continue to run down the games from last week and dive into recruiting and a lot more, and take your comments on social media. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
So what was the story?
The Moody call was bad. It was just a bad whistle.
What happened?
Okay, you want to say it, Brett?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so it's fourth down conversion play at midfield. Line up, run the ball forward, get the first down, but he's kind of backing into the first down, Luke. Momentum's still going.
Yeah.
So the ball stripped and fumbles forward. Well, Moody recovers the fumble too.
Down the field.
So, yeah, and not behind the first down marker. I mean, in front of it.
It's like 10 yards down the field into their territory. So
that's right. So it comes back. They go to replay, and it is an inadvertent whistle before the fumble. But the call on the field's a first down for Moody.
Yeah.
And when they go back, and I guess so tell me, Brett, because you and Pete had a long talk on this. What's the thought process at that point? Once it goes to replay?
Okay, once it goes to replay, you have two options. You can either take the ball where it was spotted, which they spotted him short, or you can replay.
No, they spotted him past.
So the team that didn't get the call, gets the option at that point.
There it is.
The team that didn't get the call, that if it didn't go your way, the team that it didn't go their way, they get the option to accept where the ball was, which would have been a first down, or replay the down. That's how it goes.
So Luke,
why didn't they? What if the team that?
So they chose to replay the down.
Yeah,
chose to replay the down to make them go
Catholic
forward on fourth again,
and then they stopped.
Well, that's such a dumb rule.
Yeah.
If the goal again,
here's the problem, Luke. Though here's the problem with that: when you blow a whistle, it trumps everything.
I hear that.
So it's a mistake. It's basically everybody's admitting it's a mistake, and it's the only way to go back and say, well, really all you have to do that you can do is do it over. It sucks.
Fair, but when was the inadvertent whistle?
Right when they were coming up, making the spot.
Okay, so he had the first down backing into it at that point, right?
He did.
Okay,
he did.
So my question is, if the goal is to get every call right, which I think is so crazy that everybody says that's why we have replay. I don't want replay anymore. Period. End of discussion. But if the goal is to get every call right, why would you ever give another team the option to say let's redo the play or do it this way? Why couldn't they just spot the ball when the ball should be dead when the inadvertent whistle happened? And if he had the first down, that's where it should have been.
Because the play continued on. And it shouldn't have.
But they
determined that the play shouldn't have been blown dead. I know what you're saying. I hear you. So
the inadvertent whistle trumps all.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Get your get your comments in here on social media, YouTube and Facebook. So we're kind of recapping the Super 7 from this past week, talking about the Alabama-Mississippi game. Going to talk about the transfer portal and recruiting as we head into the second hour here in just a second. Got some other comments coming in. We've had some coaching hires in high school football that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. I will go back to Bubba's comment as we'll dive into the 5A championship. That's another game that we had, Randy, another really, really good football game that I thought, the teams played extremely well. Catholic jumped up in this game, looked like they were going to run away with it. The Moody's defense stepped up, kept them in the football game. They came out, had an 11-play drive, went right down the field and scored a touchdown. And then they came back and had another long, sustained drive to tie the game. And then it became a defensive struggle there going into the fourth quarter. And there was a call, unfortunately, in this game that that swung the game. I mean, let's just be honest about it. I mean, it was a call at the 46-yard line. Moody was on their own 46-yard line, and they were going for it on fourth down. They rolled the dice. They felt like they had the momentum. They did have the momentum in the second half. Apparently, it looked like they got the first down. The ball popped out, fumbled it forward. And then we had kind of an issue on the field where the whistle was blown while the play was still going on. So it was deemed an inadvertent whistle. So they go to replay, and they replay it, and they end up doing the down over, and they go for it again. Moody decides to do it again, and this time Catholic stops them. And that was the one drive really Catholic had to able to go down and kick that 22-yard field goal, which was the difference in the football game. Now, Moody had the ball a couple more times in the game to try to win it, but or at least tie it. But their quarterback was battling a finger injury, and he struggled throwing the football. And then when you had a situation where you were backed up like that trying to throw the ball, Catholic knew that, and he was struggling, so they were able to hold on to win. But that's kind of how that game went. It's unfortunate because I thought the officiating throughout the entire Super 7 was really, really good. There were some replays that were done in other games. One of the plays in the Reeltown game, kid Tuscaloosa Academy made an unbelievable catch. And they went back and replayed it and showed that it was a good catch, and they kept them down there inside the 5. So replay's got its positives and negatives, and I know Luke will give his take on that here in just a second. But, Randy, it was a great game. I hate it for the Moody people that there was an inadvertent whistle, but that's part of football, unfortunately.
Well, it is. And, the officiating crew at the end of the day got it right there. The thing that they got wrong was blowing the whistle early. And, you got to hold that whistle. And since that play, I've probably spoken to a dozen officials, I feel like, about that play. And the first thing they say is, look, we're not giving a pass, but all of us do it. We try not to, and there's ways that you can get around not blowing the whistle too early. But it's something that we all think about. Before this play, I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody about that as much as I have now. But, at the end of the day, when you do have that inadvertent whistle, you've got to go back and you got to replay the play there. And when they come back and replay it, it was a stop behind the line of scrimmage for Catholic, got the football back, and were able to drive the football down inside the 10-yard line and kick that field goal to win. Very unfortunate if you're a Moody fan, Bubba. But I do suspect they're going to be back in it, and they're going to be back in it a lot. Jake Gaines, what a job he's done at Moody. Brett, that's kind of like a Thompson. You and I had Moody in the region or the area. I think it was the region back then with Benjamin Russell. And I'm sorry, but that was not a good football program back then. I mean, they were a 2 or 3 win per season type of program. I'd have to go back and look historically on where they stand, but that's what my memory tells me. And
they haven't been, Randy.
And to see where they are now, and that's not stopping anytime soon. So back to your comment, Luke, you get the right coach, you can flip things pretty quickly.
You can. And look, again, I'm going to say it for the 1,000th time. Nobody's going to listen to me, and that's fine. I mean, I said the same. I said some stuff about the college football playoff that was wrong and right. And but when it comes to officiating, we are so obsessed with getting all these calls correct about, where was the ball spotted, who did this, look, officials make mistakes. I'm all about that. But when you make a mistake like this, and again, just hearing it, I hadn't seen the play, so I probably shouldn't speak on it so authoritatively, but if what you're saying is right, and there was an inadvertent whistle, as he was backing up and where the inadvertent whistle took place, the ball would have created a first down anyway. I don't see why it doesn't just go there. But I'm going to go back to my whole stance on instant replay. We keep screwing it up over and over and over again. And really, it creates more animosity than it solves, if you ask me. Now, somebody will probably have some statistic that shows that I'm wrong. But how often is it that you're in Jordan-Hare Stadium, guys, and they put up a shot, they go, we're going to take this to review. And then they put it up on that giant, big Vizio screen y'all got, and they put it up there, and it shows somebody fumbled. And you're thinking in the stands, oh, that's a fumble. And then they keep zooming in on the knee, or they zoom in on the elbow, or they zoom in on the calf, because if the calf's down, he's also down. And then they come back and say, well, the call stands, meaning not a fumble. And then you lose your mind. And you're like, I thought it was clear as day. And the other thing is you're only supposed to change something if it's if it's conclusive evidence, like indisputable. Yet how many times do we see them go under the head and they're in there for 8 minutes?
Well, let me say this too about basketball. It's killing basketball. This thing has gotten bad in basketball. I mean, they replay everything now. I mean, I had somebody text me the other day and said, I didn't know, when did they start replaying so much in basketball, looking at these, that may be a flagrant one or something. I mean, we have gotten to the point in society, we want to analyze every little move by everybody. And we're so encapsulated in trying to be perfect. You're playing, imperfect humans are playing an imperfect game.
With imperfect referees.
And let me tell you what they've imperfected. The dadgum chains. The chain gang, man, might as well just be standing over there as they got a prime seat. You want to talk about the best seats at any game or the chain gang, because they don't do anything anymore. I don't remember the last time somebody brought the chains out and measured a game in any level, NFL, college. At some point in time, they had a meeting somewhere. All the officials said, I got an idea, guys. We ain't bringing the chains out no more. You just see the guy look over and go, all right, let's move it forward, guys. I mean, they used to bring the chains out all the time.
Well, even if they do
football,
bring
they never come out.
It's two octogenarians walking out there, and they come out there, and then they just sort of plop them down, and we just accept it. And again, if we're going to just accept stuff like that, I'm here for it, right? But what I hate is when they're like, replay is here to get the call right, and then they go under the hood for 8 minutes, and you're like, the definition of indisputable would be you get under the hood and go, whoop, we screwed that one up. Okay, going the other way. You can't go into their 8 minutes because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you freeze frame everything, you can make it believe whatever you want it to believe.
Right.
That's why when Fox News puts up a story about Whoopi Goldberg, they always show this menacing look on her face. And when CNN puts a story about Trump up, he's always got his hand out like he's saluting a former dictator. And because they want you to, they're trying to present an image in your mind of what they want you to see.
Yeah, no doubt. Randy, I'll get your take. We got to get to a commercial break on TV and radio. And we come back, we'll keep this discussion going a lot more. We got comments coming in. Stay tuned. More of the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air right after this.
Oh, back to my Austin comment. Tough. I just thought about that. We're playing our junior year. We're playing on the road at Fayette County, and we are beating their brains in. And Austin and I had a classmate. I'll say his name. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's funny. He ain't gonna mind. Alex Rodriguez. You remember Alex?
Oh God, he for the Yankees.
Oh, oh my no. Yeah, how did you didn't know he went to Benjamin Russ?
I'll be darned, him and Gio.
The athleticism was slightly different between the two of them. I'll put it that way. And so
he'll appreciate that.
We were winning, and he played on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't think he'd been in all year. And the coaching staff looked over there at him and said, "Go in." And he looked, and he put his finger up like this on the sideline at the coach. And Austin's over there, and Austin said, oh, let me get you can hear him say, let me get this right. You go to all these practices. You get on this bus, you ride all the way over here to Fayette County.
Oh, he's stinky people.
And it's your time to go in, and you don't go in.
You go to Kimbe Matumbo this thing.
Not only that, he's giving him one of these over to the coach.
He opted out.
He opted out of
go. He's gonna get cut. You know, I always think about
that's funny right there.
Yeah, that when you brought up that team you're playing when Coach. You remember Coach? Did you ever coach? Any of y'all have Coach Perkins from the junior high?
No,
Coach
he's probably long since fired before y'all got there. But we had
Coach
him,
Perkins.
and he didn't believe in cutting anybody. So on the football team, we had 6 teams of people, and practice was just it was like trying to train an army. And so practice was just, he said, we're playing Lineville this week. There ain't going to be a bunch of 7th graders. Y'all going to have to show up and do sit up. And everybody was like, God, Lineville's got to be good. We over there running extra lap. And we show up, and Lineville looked like, you know how like when you get that kid his first helmet at Christmas and you put it on, it swallows his own hand up. Everyone, I'm like, they couldn't even buckle the chin strap. The helmet was loose. He said, all right, y'all, now Lineville's a bunch of 7th graders. Look, y'all don't whoop up on too bad. I said, you done got us frothing at the mouth to kill somebody. We're going to have to go over to Jack's across the street and beat the heck out of these people if you don't let us beat up on these kids.
Oh, hey, that bobblehead helmet.
He had to put some.
Well, it just sits on the shoulder pads.
Yeah, had to put some bubble wrap in there to make the helmet not move. Every time they moved, the helmet was just like the mask would be over here.
Justin said he pulled a reverse Malachi Moore. Malachi didn't want to come off the field.
He didn't want to come off.
Man, he threw everything he could throw in that Vanderbilt game. He was throwing. I'm sorry. That was funny. When he went up there and kicked that football, man, he waited for that official to put it down.
For this?
He said, let me show you what I'm going to do. He kicked that dang football. Man, I'm tired of stuff over here.
At least I'm just glad I wasn't there. I'd have been over there kicking with him. It'd have been like a pass punt kick competition.
All right, here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's Sports Bar Grill, Sunshine Heating and Air. Get your comments in. And Justin said until the blank chain gang guy gets run over by Derrick Henry. Maybe that's why they don't bring out the chain gang guy anymore. They just kind of stay over there to their side. But
Justin brings up a good point. The NFL does have the best system right now. First of all, if we're going to do it, let's just go to challenges, just like the NFL.
Right.
Now, you can also have replay assist. Now, in high school, I understand probably can't do that. Okay. But in college, we got enough money in college now to do what the NFL is doing. We have replay assist where if the call is so bad that New York calls him and goes, guys, y'all gotta fix this. I mean, right now, don't do that anymore. But now there are some calls where it's like, okay, this is tough, and you have to challenge those. So get 3 challenges, and by God, if each team has 3 challenges, that's 6 potential screw-ups. If a referee's screwing up more than 6 times per game, he doesn't need to be reffing anymore anyway.
Good point. Good point. Can't argue with that. Hey, let me say something that got lost in all that. I know we got caught up talking about the inadvertent whistle. The game was a really good football game. And
great game.
Montgomery Catholic extended their winning streak to 28 games overall. They've got a 40-game region winning streak and a 43-game regular season winning streak. Those used to be all 5, and now Montgomery Catholic owns those records. And man, they've been this is another one of those programs we saw this coming. You know, they got beat in that 5 game right there at the end, and really the kid had the ball in his hands. He hit him in the chest to end that game, Randy, if you'll remember, up in Tuscaloosa. For Montgomery Catholic to knock Fife off that day, but he dropped it. It was the last play of the game, which would have been a crazy ending. But, man, this Montgomery Catholic team led by Kirk Johnson, man, he's got a train rolling down in Montgomery, and that thing ain't stopping anytime soon.
Well, has anyone started with a record like his? I mean, you want to go back through and find a stat. I doubt it. He's 57-2 right now. Since he took over the helm from Aubrey Blackwell there at Montgomery Catholic, and has won 2 state championships. And the two games he did lose were what, in the third round one year, and the semis the other.
Yeah, and they were surprising losses because I mean
they were.
You and
Jeremiah
I talked
Cobb
about it. Yep.
Yeah, it was Jeremiah Cobb's group, and they had great offenses, and they would match up. Montgomery Academy was one of them, and it was the second. It was the second game they had played.
Isn't Moody really young?
Their quarterback is going to Georgia Southern.
Well, they got a linebacker that's a sophomore going to Bama, I know.
Outside of that, I think they do have a lot of youth. And I was able to go talk to Coach Gaines earlier in the year when we did our On the Road show. And, you know, it's an entire mindset up there at Moody. It's not just he showed up and got kids out of the hall and, you know, all of a sudden they start putting a winning product on the field. The community has embraced – they're building a brand new school, just like we are here in Alexander City. They got new athletic facilities that are coming. You know, it's not a coincidence, guys, and we've said this a million times, that communities and schools that buy into progress and want to be successful, they all have that same characteristic. They want to enhance their facilities. They want to enhance the opportunities for their kids, give their kids the best academically and athletically, anything they can at their fingertips so they can go on to the next level, whatever that next level is for them. But that's what the mindset is. You bring a coach in and they have a mindset of, hey, we're going to do things this way. And we've seen it here in Alexander City, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but Ricky Pulliam, guys, you know, our girls basketball team is 11-4 now. And I wouldn't
4. They won again.
Okay. So they won again in the mind again, that had Coach Pulliam on this week on Lake Martin Sports Roundup, and they continue. It's a mindset, man. It's mentality first and a belief system, and then the athletes go out and do what athletes do. But it's got to be a leader at the top. And, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Benjamin Russell's girls aren't in Birmingham. And I'm telling you, you go back and look at last year, there's a lot of those girls that were on that team last year that are on this team this year. And it's just a mindset and what Ricky Pulliam has determined he's going to do here, because he's won everywhere he's been, at Hueytown, Chilton County. It goes for every sport up and down the line.
Well, I agree with you. And we've seen some high school basketball, and I know we'll start, you know, here in the next couple of weeks, really taking a look at what's going on around the state when it comes to high school basketball. But we've seen some programs that weren't big-time winners that are now. And, you know, some are becoming a national product. You know, Huntsville High, that's a national brand now. They ain't lost a game yet, y'all. And last year they didn't lose a game in state until the semis. And it's not going anywhere too, because that's in an area where you're going to keep getting really good talent. And all 5 of their starters this year are D1 signees, 1 to Auburn, several to some other schools, some big time basketball schools. So that's one we'll start talking about. But moving down into Class 4A, Brett, we're getting into Luke's realm now. These 4A down to 1A. He saw a lot of these games a little more than we did. So let's move into 4A.
Well, this one was a massacre. I mean, there's no other way to spin it. Jackson knocked off Cherokee County 69-6. It's the third time Cherokee County's made it to the state championship game in 3. I mean, they just last year is bad. You know, Montgomery Catholic beat them last year, but this one. And look, when you make it to Birmingham or Auburn or Alabama, where the Super 7's been played, you've done something, man. You know, they were 13-2 on the season. They had a great season, but man, Jackson, they can win up and down classification. There's 7A teams, 7A teams they can beat. And so you look at Duckworth at quarterback, those 2 wide receivers, their defensive line. I was on the sideline for that game, just wanted to see them up close and personal, man, and they are unbelievable. I mean, Cherokee County couldn't get a snap off hardly. And,
you know what that game reminded me of? Long time ago.
I know exactly where you go with it.
No, you don't. You don't.
This is not the Sulligent game.
No, this is a long time ago when I was in college. A friend of ours, Stuart Wilbanks, he had bought the old train station, and he hired some agent called him up and said, I got this guy named the Chicken Man, and he just won Def Comedy Jam, and he's unbelievable. And you got to sell tickets out to Yin Yang. So Stewart got him in there, and the guy showed up, and he looked like just some dude that had just walked up off the street. And Stewart was like, "Are you sure it wasn't like Def Comedy Jam? Like nobody could hear this guy because he's awful." And so he gets up there and starts doing his thing, and it's the worst comedy act anybody had ever seen. And at first, we were all booing him and just doing stuff, and Kevin Morris was in the crowd being funnier than he was. And after about 15 minutes of his act, we kind of forgot he was up there. And so we just all turned around, started talking to one another, and we looked up. He's still on stage. That's what I thought about this Jackson-Cherokee County game. It got so bad so quick. I started talking to this. I said, "This game's in the second quarter. How in the world?"
It wasn't Chicken Man out there either.
No, but I'll never forget it. Stewart, he came out after Chicken Man left the stage. Stewart came out. I said, "Man," he said, "I know." He grabbed a paper sack that was standing next to him and just put it over his head. "I'm sorry, y'all." He said, "I'm just going to give everybody the money back. I'll just go broke. This is the worst. Y'all deserve money for having to sit through this."
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get to our next break here because we're up against getting close to the top of the hour. But but Jackson, I mean, we'll come back and say a little bit more about them, and then we'll close out the talk here as we head into the second hour, because I know there's a lot of stuff we want to dive into on that side. But that was, man, again, this is no shot at Cherokee County by any stretch. That was just an unreal Jackson team that's not losing anybody, by the way. So this team going into 4A next year, good luck to everybody out there. They're just a phenomenal coached team and just athletes everywhere in every position, and they're going to be a hard out next year as well. All right, going to take another break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I'll be right back. I got to make some coffee.
I'm so dang glad Randy had pants on. I don't know what to do. I was afraid. I was afraid we were about to get
Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, get up. I'm gonna go get something right quick. I'll be back.
I had to use that the other day. What game was it that was on that was just awful? Well, it was some game. It was it was one of these championship games. It was just so hard to watch. One of those college football championship games. Yeah. And I said, this game, I tweeted out, this game is not, did that gif of Mike Tyson walking.
Oh, man. I mean, that caught everybody. Like, it caught everybody by surprise when he spun around in that locker room. Said, "Tell me how you really feel."
I'll never, that Chicken Man thing, y'all. It's so much.
That's terrible.
He was sitting after about 15 minutes, like everybody had quit booing and quit paying attention. And when we looked back over there, he was just sitting on the stage, like not Indian style, but just sitting like they just had the microphone still.
Terrible.
Trying to tell stories, and everybody's like, "Why don't you pipe down? We're trying to talk about some other stuff over here."
Can y'all cut his mic off, please?
And Stewart said that agent that had him hire him called him the next week and said, "All right, that one didn't work out, but I got another one for you." Stewart said, "You lose my number. Don't ever call me again."
Austin and I went and stayed with Luke when we were seniors in high school, and he took us out to Stewart's place. What was it called? Train station?
Old train station, yeah.
Oh, I knew it about. I knew it wasn't going good. I knew this wasn't going to end good for either of us, me or Austin. And I thought we were pretty good pros by this point. And
it was different animals back then.
No, we weren't pros. And both of us are out in the parking lot by 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking about just puking our guts up. And
let me tell you, when they had a bartender, Ian Fitzsimmons, I think, was the bartender there for a while. But they had one bartender, and people would come up and he'd point at them, like, you tell them what you want. You'd have to go Coors Light, Miller Lite, Viking soda, whatever, and he'd do that. And he was doing this and trying to get as many orders at one time as he could. And this one new Alpha guy goes, "I'm gonna have a peach daiquiri." He goes, "No." Like, I can make 3 drinks. 2 of them are already in the bottle. So you get a choice. It's wide open. Any of them 3.
Now, you had another buddy that had, what was the other bar there? Downtown.
Downtown.
Jay. Which bar did Jay own?
What did Jay?
Yeah.
Oh, Jay was with Stewart.
Was that the same?
Jay was his bar manager.
All right,
and
10 seconds.
Okay.
Who owned the booth, Luke?
Here we go.
Oh, we didn't know him.
Okay.
Didn't want to know him.
Oh.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Story time here on Saturday Sports Countdown. We got a few minutes left here in hour number one, so we'll wrap this up, guys, on the Super 7. Just kind of going down the line, Mars Hill over Houston Academy. That was a pretty good game, 50-43. And Mars Hill's another program here in the state that's not. They pretty much making an annual trip now.
That game turned in the weirdest way. It was Mars Hill and who was it again?
Mars Hill and Houston Academy.
Yeah, Houston. By the way, Jimmy Rain was on the sidelines because
Right.
Houston Academy has his grandson on the team, and Houston Academy got a fumble return for a touchdown, but it was called back, I think, due to a penalty or due to something like that. And then, like 2 plays later, Mars Hill got a fumble return for a touchdown, and the game just totally flipped. It was wild how that happened.
Yeah, it was. Again, kudos to Houston Academy. We're starting to see some teams that, Randy, that we haven't seen make it to the state championship games, and that's always good. Now, we see our regulars like Thompson and Phoenix City and, Catholic and Mars Hill. You see those teams, but you're starting to see some teams that are new. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Reeltown. Talked to Coach Johnson this week. His son, Cruz Johnson, was our Grid Award winner for the Chick-fil-A Grid Award winner here locally, and they won over Tuscaloosa Academy 49-13. Very dominant performance for them this season. Their lone loss came all the way back in week 1 to T.R. Miller in that kickoff classic game, but they had a unbelievable win against Highland Home there in the semifinals. Everybody kind of felt like that might be the state championship game, and Highland Home just does not want to see Reeltown ever again. They lose 8-7, 6-0. Those are the games. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, and Coach Johnson was very complimentary of them. Talked about how well coached Highland Home was and how fortunate they were to win that football game. But they get to the state championship game, and they win another state championship at Reeltown.
Very talented team. From a skill set standpoint, probably the most talented Reeltown team I've seen, especially at the quarterback position. Jamarcus Smith was the MVP of the game. He only completed 4 passes, but 3 of them were for touchdowns for right at 180 yards. New rankings come out, by the way, by PBR this week, and he's the number 2 prospect in the state for baseball for his class. So a tremendous athlete there. And when you've got that to add to the way that they raise these kids in Reeltown to believe in a physical brand of football and a run it downhill, right at you brand of football, and then you add a quarterback in the mix, and you got some talented players like Tay Martin to throw the football to, it's going to be a difficult out for anybody. I say this all the time, and I mean it because I've had the good fortune of watching it with youth football, and you have as well, Brett. Reeltown in our area does it better than all the rest of us. They do. They have a 25-year plus youth football program that they bought into as a community. And they raise these kids from a young age to play a certain brand of football, and you see it up and down. And when they end up in the high school, they've had 10 years of getting set for the system that they plan to play there. And it pays off. It pays off big time because they win more football games than the rest of us. The rest of us ride a little bit more of a roller coaster. I say Brett and myself, we watch that at Benjamin Russell. Dave watches it. But the one local team that does not have an up and down is Reeltown. Reeltown's always putting a championship product out there on the field.
Yeah, and the thing about Reeltown is you said it. He only had to throw the ball 4 times, but they had an offense this year. If they needed to throw it 30, they could. That's the difference in this team, I think, that you just mentioned that is different than any other Reeltown team is they can go spread. They got the athletes to do it, and they don't have to just rely on three yards in a cloud of dust. So they can go and be versatile and do whatever they need to do whenever they need to do it. All right, and finally in 1A football, guys, what else can you say? Wadley gets over the hump. Big win for them. First state championship in school history. Wadley wins 37-7 over a good Maplesville team. Okay, let's be honest about it. We know the tradition of Maplesville, but that's how good Wadley's been all year in 1A football. We've seen it. Luke, I know you've talked about it on the scoreboard show. Randy, you and I have talked about it every week because they're just right down the road from us. But Wilkes is a beast. They've got another running back there with him. They got a great offensive line. But, man, it's almost unfair when you turn around handing the football off to a guy like Wilkes in 1A football. I mean, you can be in the right position, and Maplesville was. But when you got a guy that big, I mean, he's falling down for 5 to 7 yards.
He's bigger than your defensive lineman.
I mean, it's just hard to defend. There wasn't nothing you could do if you were Maplesville.
And there was one play where he sort of broke free, and a kid had the angle on him. And I'm not saying the kid pulled up, but the kid pulled up. Because he's sort of like when a dog's chasing a car. What's he going to do if he catches him? Just going to get his teeth ripped out on the hubcaps. And, I mean, if that kid had caught him, he'd just be stiff arm into oblivion. And so I don't blame him. I get it.
Hey, Luke, I'm thinking of one. We bring this up down here at work, but and I'm thinking back to your story when y'all played Clay County back in the day, and Billy Ross was down in the post. And Billy Ross, he was talked about down here at work this week. My good friend Bo Glenn was talking about him coming up from the secondary to have to tackle Billy Ross and how he made a business decision several times that there's nothing I can do. I mean, look at me. What's my 5'8", 165-pound self supposed to do with Billy Ross? So I'm not hitting him. I tried to hit him one time and it didn't work. So
Billy Ross was like Toy Story. He's like if one of my He-Man figures had come to life at night, and then I have to play basketball against him the next day. He dunked over me so hard. I was at Indian Springs, and nobody was dunking. Everybody was trying to do the best to get a layup off. And I sort of standing there. I was about to go in for a block, and all I can see is the bottom of his shoe. I'm like, he stepped in some gum the other day. And then he just kept flying. And the other day, several years ago, I saw a coach. I said, Ben, from Clay County. I said, Billy Ross. He said, yeah, he's in Australia. And I said, I know. I was there when he took off and just kept going to Australia, just flew right across several of the oceans and seas and continents. And he just landed in Australia. And I guess he's just been there ever since. I've never seen anybody jump like that.
That's a good segue into hour number 2. Yeah, we'll fly right on into hour number 2. Hey, look, we got some comments coming in about college, and that's what we're about to get into. So everybody hang on. We're going to pull those comments up in hour number 2 and get to those. But again, stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's and Sunshine Heating and Air right after this.
God, I can't believe anybody would want to tackle Billy Ross in 2A football.
That's what Wilkes has got to look like in 1A.
I'm telling y'all, man.
No. Billy Ross is different. Billy Ross was different because he had definition. Wilkes is just he's big, but he's not defined. He's country strong, but he's not like they said. Hey, he hadn't hit a weight room. That's the problem. Like if he went and played 6A, 7A ball right now, he wouldn't be as good. I don't believe because he hadn't had a weight program is what the talk was. Now again, but if he gets a weight program, he's going to be a big time problem. And I think is a rush end or something. But Billy Ross, he looked like he crashed into earth, years ago. He looked like he's a mutant. I mean, he was just he was so built and so strong. And he had eyes that just cut right through you. You felt bad. You're like, I don't even.
I've already painted this picture of these laser beam eyes and everything.
Yeah, I know.
You've built this cartoon character.
Well, it's all I remember, Brett. He ruined my whole sophomore season. I wasn't right after that. Him and Lance Weems was on that team.
I know it. He's out there.
Lance was the all-time leading scorer forever in Alabama history, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I don't know who he is now. Somebody else is. Probably that kid that played at Darrell. What's his name that played at Mississippi State with Bart Heitch?
I don't know. That's a good question. Need to look that up.
Luke, who was the other player you had on your team? Because y'all didn't have the two of them.
Yeah, Joe Hammond.
Woo.
And Joe and I would go to the sideline and say, listen, he's
Brett.
more of a guard. He's like, no, he's more of a center. And I'm like, yeah, no, you guarding this man.
Brett, Indian Springs, if they scored 43, Luke had 21 and Joe had 22. They had nobody else.
2 players.
Who
scheduled that Clay County game?
Well, that was back when the AHSA just hated private schools. So we played Woodland. I think we played something like Panama City. We played anybody that was 4.5 hours away. And I was like, y'all don't understand. You're also screwing up with the other teams when they come to play us here. And they were like, well, chances are y'all's game's going to be rained out anyway because our gym's leaking. Everybody thought we were the richest place on earth. We'd have a gym. They'd be a 55-gallon drum in there. I'd just practice around this thing because he's just bloop, bloop.
Y'all had that stage right behind one of the goals. Right behind it.
Well, yeah, and there was nothing. The other goal had the door, so you just walk in, and then it's nothing but straight brick. If you dove for a ball, your funeral was going to be in 2 to 3 days. I mean, we had.
Oh, here we go. Welcome back to the Sports Split Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air, hour number 2 coming your way here. Luke, you guys had to schedule around the church league games. They had preference over y'all's gym with a stage. That's all I can envision right there. It's like, hey, we got an important church league tournament. You guys are going to have to cancel y'all's game.
Well, and our coach usually was the one that cleaned the gym, if I remember right. So that thing was cleaned at least once a year. And and the dust would get built up so bad on it that it was like grout. And we had one of those old Coleman Coliseum rubber courts, and everything was faded. You weren't the official would be like, I think it's 3 seconds in the lane, but I can't see the paint anymore.
It all faded into the same color, man. That's some good memories right there. All right, we're going to dive into college here in the second hour, and we've already got some comments coming in. Ronald says, good morning. I'm curious to know what you all think of Cam Newton's comments on Deuce Knight wearing number 2 at Auburn. John says, I know this isn't your topic for the day. It will be now because we're in hour number 2, John. Luke, can briefly give your overall assessment at this time for UA recruitment, including the portal, and your thoughts about the Tide going into next year. Thanks. So we're going to get to those first, and then we got some more comments coming in that we'll get to because Justin said, speaking of Clay County, Shamari Simmons playing well for Arizona State. Would love to have him at Auburn. Mom said Stanford Simmons was an unbelievable athlete. Stanford Simmons was an outstanding athlete. Had a chance to go up and watch one of the best high school football games ever between Clay County and Hazelwood there in that state championship game. That was back when, they had them at the home team play. There was no Super 6, no Super 7. Remember going up there, getting there early, sitting on the Clay County side, watching that game, and the shoestring tackle. Coach Horn told that story when I interviewed him a few weeks ago. He remembers it vividly, obviously, and I do too. As a kid that really didn't play much that year, made a game-saving tackle on the kickoff, or Hazelwood would have come back down and scored and probably won the game. But crazy. We'll get to those. We'll start with the Cam Newton comments. Cam Newton said, look, I don't really want him to wear my number because I want to he needs to earn it. He needs to earn wearing number 2. I can't argue with him on that, guys.
No, I like it. I mean, I'm 100% with him.
But his name is Deuce.
Well, if every year we come in and try to decide that the jerseys are retired by high school numbers because they're a great high school player, and we're trying to decide whether they're going to be a great college. Deuce Knight may never grace the field at Auburn. You don't know. I hope he does.
Don't.
But so I don't have a problem. I think when a jersey's retired, it's retired.
I'm with you on that, Randy. Here's my thing. First of all, I think it's practically impossible to retire one in college. I mean, you can, and I think Auburn's. I don't guess anybody wears 34 at Auburn, do they? I don't know.
No,
nobody putting that number on.
And again, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. The moment you start retiring a jersey, though, you set a precedent of, okay, and then the next guy comes around, and and every generation has a guy. And I think we're all fine, broad scheme, like, yeah, Bo Jackson's jersey retired. Everybody's cool with that. But I think you could also retire a jersey and still have it going. But the other way to look at this with Cam, and I get it, I get what he's saying, and I think that part of him is right. But it's and what do they do at Ole Miss? They have the Chucky Mullins number, right? 38 or something.
38. But they wear that. But they wear that. A player actually wears Chucky Mullins jersey on the field.
Well, yeah, and you do quote unquote earn it. But again, so Auburn probably has who else's jersey is retired? I mean,
the Heisman winners.
Well, it's Pat Sullivan.
Well, except for Cam, I guess, right?
Well, Cam's is retired. Cam's jersey's retired.
Well, if it's retired, then
he was saying, would he give him permission to wear it?
So he's not gonna wear it.
He's not gonna wear it. No,
okay.
Like Cam Newton, the rumor was on the recruiting trail that Cam Newton had worked out some kind of deal to get Deuce Knight to come there and he'd let him wear his number. That's just all a bunch of jargon. Look, here's the deal. I think what Cam Newton's saying is, look, if Deuce Knight comes there and is a superstar and he's doing well, I may say, look, buddy, you're sophomore or junior year, yeah, you can wear my jersey because you make me proud. I mean, I think that was what Cam Newton was saying is like, I don't want to give up my retired jersey for a kid coming out of high school, like Randy just said, that ain't played a down.
But then it goes back to, why was it even a question? If it's retired, it's retired. That I'm with Randy on this. If you're retiring a jersey, nobody should wear it.
Agree.
That's the bottom line. And it shouldn't even be a question. It's kind of insulting to Cam, really, like, well, if he's this good, and Cam's like, no, wait a minute. I
don't even think Deuce Knight even said anything about it. I think this is just fans and stuff making up.
I understand, but I'm saying whoever asked the question is insulting to Cam.
Yeah, right. I think it's like what you just said. His name, Deuce. Could he wear that? And it was a big deal. And there was a graphic made in the recruiting process with Cam there, and then I think him wearing a 2 jersey and stuff. So anywhere. Like Justin just said, he wore number 2 in his recruiting photos at all.
Yeah, but that's
big deal.
Different.
No big deal. So
I think everybody for Alabama wears like 18 for the championship, whatever. I mean, it's just that's silly. And he says Cam needs to explain his apparent fascination with imitating Johnny Depp as Pirate Jack. Now that is,
I don't know, man.
I just don't know fashion enough to say anything. But every hat he's got's got a hole in the top of it, doesn't that?
Well, if it doesn't have a hole, Luke, the hat's way up here.
He's going to get one of them old school helmets we talked about.
I mean, he's got to have somewhere for his hair to come out the top. Anyway, all right, let's move on, and we'll start and we'll carry this over because I want to talk about the college football playoff since all 3 of us are here. And I want to let you go ahead and address John, though, and we can carry this into the next break because we got a few more minutes here before we have to take our next break. Just your overall assessment of Alabama and recruiting and then portal needs. And then what about y'all's quarterback situation, Luke? I've had some people, are we talking about Auburn's portal quarterback trying to go out and do all that? Talk about Alabama for a second.
Yeah, well, they end up, depending on the service, either number 2 or number 3, maybe even number 4 in the country, which is fantastic. I mean, especially when you consider somebody like Texas getting Justice Terry late, that really bolsters their class, and Oregon getting Naheem offered late. I mean, in my opinion, those 2 probably did have the best 2 classes. Now, I'm a huge proponent of recruiting rankings. I'm less of a proponent now because of the transfer portal. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, last year Alabama got a 5-star in Caleb Odom, and he's at Alabama 1 year, and he's like, I'm getting out of here. I mean, it's like you don't know if you're going to have these guys for more than 5 minutes, so it might not matter as much. But I like the class a lot. Love Keelan Russell. I mean, I'm as excited about Keelan Russell as I was Bryce Young. I mean, I feel like he's that kind of talent. And next year at quarterback, I don't think Jalen Milroe will be the quarterback. There's Jimmy and I talk about it on the Locked On Bama thing all the time. For whatever reason, Jalen Milroe is the most divisive player I can remember at Alabama since probably Chris Capps. And I don't know if Chris Capps was divisive. I just think, there's some people that just can't stand him, and there's some people that just love him and they don't care what he does wrong. And other people, it doesn't matter what he does right. They're like, well, he could have done it better. And the truth is in the middle. Jalen Milroe has done a lot of, he has 20 rushing touchdowns this year. That's like 5th in Alabama history.
Do you want him back?
Look, if he came back, want is a big term. I think that it may be best for everybody if he were to go to the draft. He's rated the number 3 quarterback in the draft by Mel Kiper, because it's not a great year for quarterbacks. Doesn't mean an insult on Jalen Milroe. He's a freakazoid athlete, so maybe somebody will take an Anthony Richardson, Indianapolis Colts chance on him. And I like Jalen Milroe a lot. I've said it over and over. He's a great ambassador. I've met him personally. Couldn't be any nicer. But his body language at times on the sidelines during losses is concerning. And some of the passes he doesn't or can't make is concerning, especially in this offense. But I think if he came back, I would certainly be more than good with it. But if he goes pro, I'm also like, okay, let's turn the page.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there, Luke. I'm going to stop you right there so we can get to break, but I want you to continue to talk about that when we come back. And you can talk about it during the break too on on social. All right, stay tuned. More to come right after this.
Who do you get if he goes, Luke?
Well,
who do you have if he goes?
Ty Simpson would be the odds-on favorite. Dylan Lonergan just left. He's probably going to end up at Boston College with Bill O'Brien. So you got Austin Mack, who they loved enough. This staff, rightly or wrongly, they loved him enough to bring him in and know that would cost him Julian Sayin, who went to Ohio State, who at the time was number 1 quarterback in the country when Alabama signed him. So you got Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, and Keelan Russell. And yeah, they'll probably find some other portal quarterback. I'm guessing that they'll say, okay, you're not going to probably be the starter, but we need a body, and you'll get paid a little bit of money, sit over here and sort of be an insurance policy. It's not going to shock. I would say Ty Simpson is probably the odds-on favorite, and then
you feel good about Ty Simpson? Russell. You feel good about Ty Simpson being the starter next year?
I'm okay with it. He's got some things to change, but I really don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I know a ton about him, because all we've seen him do is mop-up duty mostly. Now, he played – of the quarterbacks that played against South Florida last year, he probably played the best, but nobody played well. But I give him a pass because the whole team was sleepwalking, and they just looked like butt out there. So,
hey, what happened with Kobe Prentice this year? I thought he was, man.
What happened with him last year? Shoot, he was great as a freshman. I thought he regressed a little bit, and then he regressed a little more. And maybe that is because Jalen Milroe was throwing the ball, because Kobe Prentice isn't the one. And it feels like if you're not the 1 or maybe the 2 or a tight end, you ain't getting the ball.
Well,
and
that's one of the things that you saw some of the receivers even go to Twitter and say, man, and they deleted it, but kids get mad and they go, here I am over here and I never get targeted, blah, blah. And
that was Caleb Odom. He was, and so be it. Again, I'm not a fan of that. I wish they wouldn't do it. I think it looks bad on them in the end, but you ain't going to stop kids from doing that on social media these days.
It's easy to brag, and I can keep doing it over and over on Nick Saban. But the way his quarterbacks handled pressure and reacted and kept everything internally, and is that already changed within 1 year? Because no quarterback showed a lot of emotion at Alabama when Nick Saban was the coach. They were great about not. And in 1 year, you got body language issues and screaming on the sideline. And
I think I think Milroe is hard on his sleeve guy. Now, you would see some emotion from Bryce Young Bryce Young was probably more emotional cheering for Milroe when Bryce Young got hurt in that Arkansas game and didn't play in that A&M game than he was whenever he played. And Jake Coker very famously had the 2 emotional big fist pumps after he ran over a guy at A&M and then got nailed on the deep pass to Calvin Ridley against Georgia in 2015. But
10 seconds.
I just think Milroe is a very emotional guy.
All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We got about 40 minutes left on the show today. Get your comments in on social media, YouTube and Facebook. Looking over going back to what we were talking about, Luke, continuing on with Alabama recruiting, and then Randy and I will talk about Auburn a little bit and the portal situation for Auburn in the quarterback room there. But just finish up your thoughts on Alabama's quarterback situation and anything else you want to add as far as recruiting news.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Ty Simpson or Keelan Russell next year is my take. Now, the coaching staff, again, they love Austin Mack, and he's a huge dude. He's like 6'7.5", 6'8". I mean, he's a tall dude. And he's very accurate, got a big arm, through a nice touchdown pass to Rico Scott in the Mercer game, but that is what it is. So I think there's certainly some unknowns, but I feel good about the quarterback room overall, even though there's a lot of unknowns. Running back wise, Justice Haynes got in the transfer portal yesterday. You could sort of see that coming. And I am, I have no problem saying I was a Justice Haynes fan. And I still am. I want him to go and do well. But the more I watched him this year, the more I realized I just don't think – I mean, he's so big and so strong, but he doesn't have maybe the wiggle that somebody like he doesn't have the instincts of a Mark Ingram, doesn't have the wiggle of necessarily a Trent Richardson, two guys that he reminds me of because he's so brawny. And he had that one long run in the first game of the year for like 85 yards, and then, boy, he didn't do much after that. So he had a touchdown, I think, against Auburn, but that could have easily been Jalen Milroe or Jam Miller or anybody else. It was a 1-yard rush or something. So I wish him the best, but Alabama's going to, they're going to get in A.K. Deere from this signing class. And then receiver-wise, and I think that's going to determine a lot of the success of the quarterbacks, they're going really hard after Casey Concepcion from NC State, who was like National Freshman of the Year a couple of years ago, and he tailed off a little bit. But, again, you can see that coming. I think part of that's quarterback play that he's dealing with. And hopefully they get him because I like him a lot. And there's some other wide receivers I know and a couple of tight ends that Alabama's targeting in the transfer portal.
Alabama with a really, really good recruiting class. Just your thoughts on had some Alabama fans and friends of ours come up and say they liked the class, but they were a little concerned with the lack of, Auburn and Alabama being able to get more players out of the state this year. Luke, you've already given your take on that. Kind of talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Alabama's going to do fine in state. I think they're going to do really well next year. And I think the year after that, they've already got Barack Willis and Guerrer, the kid from Viger, committed for the 2027 class. I think it was sort of a perfect storm of you got this new staff coming in and Hugh Freeze selling some revitalization of the program, rebuilding of the program. And it was a good combination for Auburn to do well in state. But again, when you have the number 2 or number 3 class in the country, it's kind of hard to complain. I would have certainly liked more in-state guys, but I look at Auburn's list, and I just think some of those guys are better fits for Auburn schematically versus Alabama. I mean, Alabama wasn't going to probably chase Alvin Henderson very much. I mean, when you get A.K. Deere, who a lot of people think is the best running back in the country, do you blame them? I don't blame Auburn for signing him. I mean, I think it probably works out for everybody. And so it doesn't bother me so much this year. I don't want it to be a trend. With the HSA Radio Network, certainly I love pulling for guys from the state of Alabama. Justin brought up one that's actually Shamari Simmons, who's playing for Arizona State. It's always a lot more. I love seeing guys like that who I just frankly don't remember very much. And then you find out they're in the playoffs and is starting cornerback for Arizona State. And that's pretty cool from Clay County, Alabama. So I certainly would love to have more guys from the state. I think Alabama will do that. But you talk about somebody like KJ Lacey. Alabama recognized Keelan Russell very early on. He was committed to SMU, and some people thought he was a low 4-star. Well, it turns out he ends up being the number 2 player in the country, wins National Gatorade Player of the Year. So I give the Alabama coaching staff a lot of credit for recognizing his talent and not necessarily caving to, you got to go get the in-state guy in KJ Lacey.
All right, just got it. I was literally about to segue into this, Randy, and Justin pops it up. Jackson Arnold just signed with Auburn, so I was literally about to say, Randy, you and I talked at Bunkers yesterday. By the way, we had a great show at Bunkers on location in Auburn. Just a awesome place to go hang out with your friends and all. We'll dive into that later. But, it was Malik Murphy or Jackson Arnold. And last night it looked like it was leaning heavily toward Jackson Arnold. And, we could talk about it on the show now. I mean, all those guys have been in Bunkers the last couple of days being entertained. And that's what you do. And other players Auburn's looking at. But Auburn looks like they land the guy they wanted out of the portal. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only one they wanted. They were going after several, but it was one of the ones on the top of the list that Hugh Freeze wanted, and they were able to get Jackson Arnold.
Well, hopefully it's the one that he is happy to get at the end of the day. I suspect that there were 3 or 4 others that Auburn was after, and they realized that either you couldn't get the money high enough to pull them away from where they were, or somebody was already kind of silently committed to another school. I suspect that's going on, but Jackson Arnold, Luke, back to recruiting, and help me here, Luke, because I don't know it exactly, but it may be one of the top high school rankings that Auburn's ever gotten. Now, has he panned out and been a great player at Oklahoma? No. Did he play good against Alabama? Yeah. Has he had his moment? Sure. Is he dual threat? Yes. He's more dual threat than Murphy. So you do get somebody that can run the football, and I've been begging for that since 2014 at Auburn. Is why in the world we went away from a dual threat quarterback. But Jackson Arnold, Luke, where was he ranked coming out of high school, if you remember a few years ago?
I've got it right here if you want to know.
Yeah,
Randy.
I'd love to know.
He's nationally the number 10 player coming out of high school. Is the number 4 quarterback in the country, the number 1 player in Texas that year. So, I mean, he is the highest rank if you were to go by high school rankings. Now, he's a 4-star in coming out of the portal, but he was a 5-star plus coming out of high school.
So a really good get for Auburn. I'm hopeful. It's what we have to do. You've got to trust that the coaching staff finds the skill set that they want and they go and get it. Last year, we didn't really go out and if we did go and pursue a Cam Ward, which I think we did, we weren't willing to pay what it was going to take to get him, and you see what we got. So hopefully we're done with that now. Now we know who that quarterback room is going into the spring. But your thoughts, Brett, you like it?
I do. We got to get in the break. We come back. We'll keep talking about it during the social media part too. I think, you had to get somebody. I think the longer this thing went, the more antsy everybody got. You got to crap or get off the pot, for lack of a better term. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to another break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I haven't watched. I got to be honest. I haven't watched him enough outside of
we haven't had
Alabama game.
We ain't had much to see. I mean, he didn't play a lot early in the year. He got benched, and then, again though, I thought somebody brought up a good point on social media yesterday on our podcast. Just because you didn't do well somewhere doesn't mean you go somewhere else and do well. I mean, we saw Bo Nix do it. I mean, he went to Oregon, and it worked out for him. And there's other examples. So. Jackson Arnold.
Our problem is we haven't been the place that you go and
get
developed.
Correct. Maybe that changes here.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, I've seen people call Hugh Freeze the quarterback whisperer. And I'm like, really? What quarterbacks has he developed though? Can you name one?
I mean, you can go back to the Ole Miss guys.
Well, name one. Name one that did anything post Ole Miss or really during Ole Miss. Bill Wallace was okay.
Yeah, and Kelly.
Bill Wallace hates him for some reason. I don't know why, but
Kelly. I think Kelly was the best one he had.
Kelly was okay. I mean, he was good. I mean, I don't even know that he finished first or second team All SEC. I have to go back and look. I mean, that would have been 15.
Yeah. Right.
And then I don't know that you can count. Well, you can count it because Malik Willis did get drafted pretty high and has been in the NFL, and Auburn, for whatever reason.
Well, he didn't get a shot at Auburn, and then he goes over there and he does well at Liberty under him. So, I mean.
He reminds me of sort of a Jalen Milroe type. He's so athletic. It wasn't his arm that was kill it. I mean, it's just
No.
the idea of if we can train his arm to do well with all this running, that it works out. And Malik Willis has been in the NFL, yes, but they've tried starting him a few times. It's not the way they want to go.
Randy, what'd you think about Hank Brown signing with Iowa? That's pretty.
Or if he wants to not keep throwing, he's went to the right place.
I was going to say, I mean, talk about offense anemia. But, I think everybody thought he was going to be a shoe-in to go to UAB, with Trent Dilfer and who coached him in high school. But
that is a train wreck of train wrecks over there.
Yeah, it's not.
How in the hell UAB retained Trent Dilfer's beyond me.
Hey, who does Jacksonville State go out and get? They get Bill Clark. Hey, I'm telling you, Bill Clark went to school there. He's going to come back into coaching. Rich Rod goes back to West Virginia. I mean, there you go. I mean,
y'all probably don't know this, but you talk about irony of ironies. Alabama's
30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'll save it.
Okay, bring it. Say it when you come back, right here. But that is one to look at now. Y'all watch that? I mean, that could be. I'd be a big hire for Jacksonville State, man.
Massive hire.
Yep. All right, 15 seconds.
This your last segment, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. If you're just tuning in, Jackson Arnold does sign with Auburn, and we'll be talking about quarterbacks. Luke, kick it over to you here. You got a little story.
Yeah, it's funny. Rich Rod, of course, just became West Virginia's coach again. And again, good story. I mean, it's weird. It's like Mac Brown going back to North Carolina. Just sort of bizarre. But in 2 years, guess who rotates onto Alabama's schedule? And that's West Virginia. And, of course, the whole reason Nick Saban's at Alabama is because Rich Rod had to eventually turn him down. And it's kind of bananas how these things come full circle. But now that may change again because of, the way that Greg Burns said, hey, we may have to look at the way we do our future schedules. And I'm 100% on board. I'm for all making look, I love good non-conference games. I love them. And I love them in basketball. And y'all know I railed about, hey, Bruce Pearl needs to schedule some tougher games. And he did it this year. And isn't it so much more fun? I mean, I know you're winning too, but isn't it so much more fun to watch this basketball team play good teams? It's much more fun. And in football, it should be that way too. But the committee sent a strong message. We don't care what your strength of schedule is. It can be 60th. And if that's the case, then I'm all for Alabama saying, I'm booting West Virginia, Notre Dame, Ohio State off my schedule, and I'm going to schedule Mercer, Mercer Tech, Mercer A&M, Mercer State. And I don't like it, but if you want to get in the playoffs, that's the way you need to do.
Wayne comes in and says he heard that Bill Clark already turned down the job. Again, to be honest with you, I don't keep up a lot with Jacksonville State football. I mean, we cover Auburn 6 days a week. Luke covers Alabama 6 days, 7 days a week. So you have to excuse us. You just have to excuse us on that. I mean, we just don't dive into all that. But anyway, but yeah, go ahead, Randy. What were you about to say?
That was it. I was just saying that, I see that comment at the bottom of the screen, and I don't know one way or another. The only thing that we were saying during the break was if Jacksonville State was able to go and get a Bill Clark, and whoever goes and gets Bill Clark for me would get a winner. I think he could coach even a bigger school than that. If you ask me, if he ends up at a Mississippi State or somewhere like that, it would be a great hire for somebody like that. So I think that Bill Clark, if he did turn it down, Brett probably is expecting an offer from a little bit larger school.
Yeah, I think so, because you can tell he's rejuvenated. He was on he was on the show or the broadcast on TV for the Super 7 in between games and talking about things like that. So I think he is definitely a guy that looks ready to get back into it for sure.
I do want to go back because you and I have hit it all week, and this is the last segment with Luke. But Luke, I've been defending your comments on Alabama all week, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. And I've said it for years and years as an Auburn fan. that if you're built-in rivals are Alabama and Georgia, why in the world do you want to put yourself out there and have a chance in a non-conference game of losing? Because your strength of schedule every year is going to be good. Every single year you got a built-in tough strength of schedule for Auburn. I have bought into it in years past when there was only 2 or 4 teams going to the playoffs that you may have to do that to get in, knowing that you're going to lose 1 or 2 of those football games. But now I'm in total agreement. But my question to you, because I know we agree with each other, is how do you change it? Can you go back and tell everybody that
you just get out of these contracts? I mean, I think that's the only way to do it. And again, I hate that they chose this path because the college football is built on, that old Alabama Penn State rivalry in the 80s and 90s was awesome. Loved it every year. I know Auburn in 83 had a killer schedule, but in 86, I know Alabama played Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State. Those were their 3 non-conference games. Now, at the time, I think we only played either 7 or 8 conference games, probably 7 conference games then. But still, that's incredible. And I'm looking at it like, why? And here's the other thing that I have a huge problem with. See, Ohio State's not going to get docked for this. They just, the SEC very famously just unveiled their schedules for next year, which, I got my own set of problems with those too, but for the most part, they're okay. But here's Ohio State's schedule for next year. Oh, they get Texas at home. Okay, I'll give them some credit. Then they play Grambling State, then Ohio University. Then they're at Washington, Minnesota at home, at Illinois, at Wisconsin, Penn State, at Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and at Michigan. That would be a middle of the pack SEC schedule, in my opinion. Now, they don't. Where's Oregon? It seems to me the Big Ten, instead of saying just flip-flop who went home and away, the Big Ten did some schedule manipulation saying, why would we have Oregon and Ohio State, our 2 best teams, play each other in season and risk one of them having to miss because they lost that game? So they very wisely said, we're not going to have them play each other. Instead, SEC, meanwhile, has Georgia playing Texas and Georgia playing Bama. And, they have all the big boys playing each other with the glaring exception of Texas. And it's just bothersome to me. And so I'm sort of like, it feels like the SEC is saying, hey, we're trying to grow the game. We're trying to make it better by having a lot of non-conference games, and our conference games are tough. And let me pull up Oregon's schedule really quickly, because if you want to talk about jokes,
let's just be honest about it. I think at the end of the day, you see 2 conferences, and I'll give Big Ten a little bit of credit because they do have some good football teams up there. Not as many as us, obviously, but we started this arms race when we added Oklahoma and Texas.
Sure.
And then everybody started grabbing everybody, and that's why the conferences are screwed up. And that's why you got teams on the West Coast playing in the ACC and all this kind of stuff. So this thing's going to continue to morph and grow into something else that it is. It's 12 teams, 16, whatever, but this thing isn't finished, doing what it's doing. And John comes in and says exactly what I've been saying all week. College football committee changes like the wind. As soon as you think you figured out what they're going to take into effect, then the next year you may change it, and then they may screw you. It would be the most college football playoff committee thing to come back and then say, well, they had a tougher schedule this year and get you in over somebody else. Who knows what they're going to do? I agree with both of you on this. I know it's kind of sounded like a hat this week, but I've always been in favor of playing a few cupcake teams in your schedule because you got to have a break. The kids have to have a break. You can't play 12 weeks in a row, the gauntlet that the SEC said. The only thing I've been saying this week is, unfortunately for Alabama, they lost 3 conference games this year, so it didn't matter anyway what their non-conference schedule was because they went out and they went to Wisconsin and they beat Wisconsin. And that was a tough game at the time on paper, but Wisconsin ended up not being as good. But my point is, I agree with both of you on that. The SEC doesn't have to do what everybody else does because our schedule naturally is tougher anyway because our conference. Yeah, it's exactly right.
But Brett, and now – a couple of things. First of all, it's so funny. Everybody's like, well, Wisconsin was 7-5. By the way, 5-7. That 5-7 Wisconsin team lost to Oregon 16-13 and should have beaten Penn State as well. Now they didn't. So, it counts. And my point was, okay, that's fine. I'm not mad. I wasn't so much mad about missing the playoffs this year. I didn't think we deserved it necessarily. I don't think SMU deserves it. I think we got a bloated system with 12 teams, and we got to shoehorn somebody in there. So the deserve part is where I don't like people saying, what has Southern Miss done to deserve playing for a national championship? The answer is nothing. But what we did was had a group of about 5 or 6 teams that you're like, I got to pick one of them, because we have this dumb system where Clemson's already in with no good wins and 3 losses too. So it's not that the 3 losses bothers anybody, because Clemson's already in. So my point was, what you're doing is sending the message that you don't want good non-conference games in the future. And if the goal is to have, if SMU can get in with a 60th toughest schedule, then the only way Alabama can get to the 60th toughest schedule is to drop everybody that's worth a darn in the non-con, because they can't do anything about their conference. So if they drop their non-con games that are good, their schedule will revert to being something like the 60th versus what it is now, which is like the 15th. So that was my point. It's all for the future, not the right now.
Yeah. All right. I think we're at break, Luke. We had to go ahead and, as you were talking, just go ahead and go to break. I didn't want to interrupt you there. So
I was on a roll, baby.
You were rolling, man. You were rolling like Mike Price, right? But anyway, I know you got to jump off now that we're here on social media only. Appreciate you jumping in, brother, and have a good weekend. And Alabama Mississippi All-Star Game is going to be fun to watch. We'll be watching that, I know, today. So
is that on TV or is that just on?
No, it's on WOTM. Yep, it's on
okay,
WOTM.
good. All right, I'll watch it.
So,
all right, guys. See y'all later.
All right, man.
See you, Luke. You like the Arnold get, Brett?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not like I'm over here doing backflips or anything, but I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, we got to get somebody. You had to get somebody, and again, I'm gonna hold hope out that he comes here and and he gets in a system that he can, for your points, Randy, he can run the ball. And now you put him in an RPO offense that he has to be honored that he's going to run the ball. He's not just to sit back there. And I think he's good enough throwing the ball. I mean, 62% throwing. I mean,
what's his stats? What were his stats?
I'll pull them up real quick. R. Stu said honestly wanted Murphy more than Arnold. I get it. I mean,
I've heard a lot of people say that. I have not watched enough of either to have a really good take. I mean, I've watched the same highlight reels, and I bought into the same sales points on both of them that we've all heard as Auburn fans, but I don't know either one of them well enough. Like this state of Alabama guy like KJ Lacey, I'd really have a strong opinion on that because I've seen him in the fire and I know how he reacts and stuff, but I don't have a good opinion. I hope Hugh Freeze and them do. I hope they pick the right one.
I think it was real close between both of them. So got 1 minute, by the way.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it was real close, and I'll pull up Arnold's stats here when we come back. I had them pretty much memorized. I should know them. I've talked about them all week. He was 63% passing, 154 of 246, 1,421 yards. I mean, but he didn't play in several games. I mean, it's not like 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions.
Rushing stats.
444 yards on 150 carries. He's a true dual threat quarterback. I mean, if he'd have played all year, I mean, he probably would have had 650, 700 yards rushing.
That's the magic number for me.
And he would have probably thrown for about 2,500 yards. He'd have thrown for another 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the same deal. So, all right, welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left in the show today. You can get your comments in. R. Stu said, hey, there's one good thing. We didn't go after TJ Finley. Good Lord. That kid, man, he can't figure out where he wants to end up. I guess he thinks it's a must that you have to get in the transfer portal after every college football season. So Kyle said, if you hate non-dual threat quarterbacks, promise you didn't want Murphy. Minus 79 yards last season, and yes, sack yards included. Now, we talked about that, Kyle, on the podcast. Randy and I did. He came out of high school. We had some comments, people saying he came out of high school as a dual threat quarterback, but he obviously he chose, Randy. You always say that about coaches choosing an assistant. Well, did he not know what he was walking into at Duke? I mean, he went to Duke. Now, I know Elko left and went to Texas A&M. There was a changeover in coaching staff, but he went into an offense where he flourished throwing the football, but obviously it was not an RPO. It was not some type of run option type offense, and he didn't run the ball at all. I mean, when you got minus 79, you're a drop back passer. Now, he set a Duke record throwing the football, so that's a positive. So could Murphy come into an RPO style offense? I think so, but just from what you and I heard through the grapevine, Randy, is Hugh Freeze was very happy with sitting down in Jackson Arnold's, education on RPO and, putting them through situations and what you would do here. And they really were impressed at his knowledge of the style of offense and what they want to do here.
Well, that's what you've got to hope for. You go and you hire these coaches and you hire a head coach that's known for great offenses. And we must say different here as an Auburn fan right now in the first 2 years. If anything, the defense is way ahead of the offense right now. And we got a head coach that hangs his hat on offense. So I'm hopeful that he picks the right guy here. I'm telling you one thing, he better, because the Auburn fan base has heard enough of the excuses. So I'm behind Jackson Arnold. I've been begging for years that let's go get a dual threat guy. Get somebody.
You got him.
I think that if Auburn is at their best, when we've got a quarterback that can scare you enough to rush the football for 700 to 900 yards per year. And when we've had that, we've had great success moving the football. And I think we're at our best that way. And I'm hopeful that with this that becomes our identity and we have an identity again on the offensive side, because I think we've been really looking for an identity since 2015. Would you agree with that, Brett? I mean, I feel like since 2015, if you were to ask me, what does Auburn do offensively? I don't know that any of us can give a positive answer for that. We've changed multiple times each year, trying to find something that we can do successfully, rather than being somebody and being a system that you can sell to a potential recruit coming in here to Auburn. And if RPO is that system that Hugh Freeze believes in, then I'm all for it. But I think that system's best when you've got a quarterback, when everything breaks down, can make a play. And we haven't necessarily had that I can think of consistently over the last 10 years. And when we did with Bo Nix, we didn't take advantage of it.
I agree with you. And, the good positive thing, another positive, if we're going to pull positives out about Jackson Arnold, he's battle tested. He's been in big games. He's played in this conference. I mean, it's not like this kid hadn't proven. He was the starter for a reason. And then, again, I think when you have – and we're the poster child for this at Auburn. When you have problems on offense and coaches can't get things figured out, what's the first thing you do? Bench your quarterback, right? Yep. We did it this year, but we didn't have anybody to bring in to better the situation. Again, we talk about it all the time. It's talking heads, but there's a reason guys start on Saturday. The coaches are watching. I mean, I don't know of any coach that wants to run a guy out there that's not their best option. And Hugh Freeze said it over and over and over and over about Peyton Thorne. The problem we had was that he made a bad decision to stick with Peyton Thorne. Okay, in the offseason. That was where we were upset, because we had already seen enough and we didn't feel like that was going to be good enough, and it wasn't this year. It panned out exactly how we thought it was going to pan out. So, going to try to stay positive on that. I think, look, you get a guy that's highly touted coming out of high school, still a highly touted quarterback. A lot of people wanted him. Now the excuses are over. You said it this week. The excuses are over. Well, the excuses are over. Just go win football games, man. You got all these pieces. The receiving room should be happy. You didn't see this mass exodus at Auburn in the transfer portal like everybody thought. So everything's in place, man. Now, and you got a great recruiting class coming in. So you got all this momentum. It's time to put up or shut up. That's really where we are with it.
Well, you better. And the schedule deems you needing a quarterback that has played in some tough environments on the road, because this schedule is not easy. I mean, you go on the road to play Baylor, which is a much better team than I think we expected them to be.
6 in a row coming down the stretch.
Yeah, way better team than we expected them to be when we probably put them on the schedule. And 2 SEC road games also in the first 5 games, and those 2 environments are not going to be easy when you talk about Oklahoma and Texas A&M. And now you add the dynamic of Jackson Arnold going back to Oklahoma to play on the road at Oklahoma in one of those first 5 games. How does he handle that if he is named the starter? And, I would expect him to be the starter coming in.
He's going to be the starter.
And if he is for sure the starter, Brett, what does that tell you about Walker White?
I don't know. I don't know. That is the mystery here out of all this. And I don't know what message that sends to him, but I mean, you would like to think that he got every shot in the world this year to be the starter. Peyton Thorne got benched, Randy. Why didn't he take the reins? What's missing there? I mean,
we don't know. I mean, none of us know. I'm just trying to.
No, I know you're not. I know you're speculating like we are. I don't know what the answer is. It's weird. And what does that do for his psyche? I don't know, man. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. At some point in time, when you get these highly touted guys out of high school, they got to start coming through. You can't just get them in the recruiting cycle and go, okay, that's great. And then a year later, forget they're there. So I think
we do that all the time at Auburn.
We do. Oh, we got to get to our last break. Our Stews, any news, we'll talk about the tackle situation when we come back. Stay tuned. One final segment right after this. But Stews, you're on the social media side. So I'll go ahead and tell you, got Xavier Chaplin in from Virginia Tech, big time offensive tackle. And he was on one of the national All-American team. I mean, only gave up 5 sacks this year. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. I think that's a big opportunity there for Auburn. Also had the big kid, I don't have it off the top of my head, from Southern Cal in yesterday. So Auburn's got some big-time prospects in at the tackle position that they're looking at. They're also looking at some other guys that maybe would be more of a fit at guard. But I know the priority is on tackles. So if you were able to get Chaplin here, that would be massive. Big-time player on a pretty good team this year at Virginia Tech. Trying to think if there's anybody else off the top of my head that
I'm sure they're after a lot more. I haven't heard any. Boy,
well, they're after
like we did this year.
No, you can't. No doubt about it. But I do know he's on campus this morning for sure. So
Alabama Mississippi game kicks at 12. Everybody. Maybe close with that some too, Brett. Out the Auburn players playing in that game.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. Yep, going to be a good game. I think it's I'm interested to see both sides, man. I mean, I'm ready to see Deuce Knight play. And I think this is great, man. I think this is great for him. If he's our guy, Jackson Arnold comes in and he's able to learn under this guy. And I hope can we just finally have something go right? Can just go in the right direction. I mean, we're putting the pieces together.
We'll know how good he is today, because if he's really good against this Alabama defensive front, he's good.
Right,
'Cause
right.
I'm confident of one thing, that defense you're going to see put out there for Alabama today is outstanding. Jordan Crawford.
He's gonna be a man amongst boys even in this game. I feel. Hey, you gonna watch Jared Smith too now? I'm telling you.
I know it.
That kid right there. I ain't sleeping on him at all. And they both coming to Auburn. How about that?
I'll say don't get too upset if Deuce Knight doesn't have a good game.
Right. No.
I wouldn't look into that too much.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Was just telling our Stews about the tackle situation. And he also said you guys going to have the Alabama, Mississippi, and the Auburn, Ohio State game on at the same time. Randy, we ain't even talked about that in 2 hours here this morning. There's been so much to talk about, especially with some breaking news here in the last 30 to 40 minutes with Jackson Arnold signing with Auburn, transferring from Oklahoma to Auburn, which was a big get. And Auburn had to get somebody out of the portal. We're talking about the Alabama Mississippi All-Star game as well. Randy was saying to everybody on social media, you're going to see Deuce Knight, quarterback Mississippi, but don't get upset if he doesn't put up unreal numbers. He's going up against an unbelievable defensive front. So can the Mississippi offensive line give Deuce Knight enough opportunity to make some plays? Here's the great thing about it. All those guys up on that defensive front, Malik Autry, Jared Smith, Jordan Crawford, they're all going to Auburn, and they're going to be going against a quarterback that's going to Auburn. So all of them can't look good, okay? So we'll see which ones do and which ones don't. But I'm sure Deuce Knight's going to be able to make some plays in this game. You're going to be able to see how the ball comes out of his hands and some things like that to watch. Auburn and Ohio State do tip off at noon in the Hoops Day Classic over in Atlanta. Auburn's a 12.5-point favorite in that game. Randy, it's another great test. That game will be on ESPN too.
Well, I think one thing I'll be watching for the basketball game today is how many minutes Ja'Kai Howard gets. Where do we see with J.P. Pegues moving forward for Auburn? And how many more minutes as we move into the seasons Tahad Pettiford start receiving? So, those things are what we're watching before SEC play starts. I was very impressed with the minutes that we saw and the athleticism from Ja'Kai Howard. And I think he's going to be in need. You may get into a situation like we did last year where CBM gets in foul trouble or he does something emotionally that gets him in trouble. And do you have somebody coming off the bench to give him a break that you don't feel like is a drastic step down from the athleticism and what he gives you on the defensive side of the ball? I think Ja'Kai Howard is that type of player, and I think he's massive for Auburn moving forward if we're going to go and play for a championship, not only in the SEC, but play for a championship once tournament time comes around. You need as many of those really good athletic bodies out there as you can get, and he's going to need to get more minutes against teams like Ohio State than we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, depth, man. This is already a deep team, and Auburn really has been able to navigate without Ja'Kai Howard. Now you add him into the mix. I was telling you yesterday about the top lineups in the country. Out of the top 25, they ranked and they listed the players, and Auburn has 2 of the top 4 starting lineups in the country. That means if you mix our players up, based on the formula that they put together, Auburn has 2 of the top 4 starting lineups in the nation. And that's listing everybody's starting lineups up and down college basketball. It tells you how deep this team is. It's crazy. So yeah, for Auburn fans out there, Auburn, Ohio State's at noon, Alabama, Mississippi All-Star games at noon. Better figure out a way to split your screen. Randy, Justin adds Antonio Coleman. Didn't even say anything about him. Yeah. Could you literally have the entire defensive front Auburn signees for Alabama this year?
All the top guys are.
The entire defensive – people need to know that. And they're running out an entire defensive line that they're going to see at Auburn.
Well, and the 2 safeties too.
Right.
So 6 of your starters are out there for Team Alabama are committed to Auburn. And the 2 safeties are I would say together the two highest safety prospects Auburn's ever signed in the same class.
Correct.
That's Eric Winters at Enterprise and Anquan Fagans coming from Thompson. And Anquan Fagans played in the same secondary with Caleb Harris that made waves there at Auburn this year. Should have been named to the All-SEC freshman team. It was ridiculous that he wasn't, but that's a different story for a different day. But my point is Caleb Harris was nowhere near as highly ranked as Anquan Fagans. So if you get Anquan Fagans to Auburn and you add him into already a young secondary along with Eric Winters and all of these defensive linemen, I told that to Luke. I told it to you.
30 seconds, Randy, for TV.
I would not trade Auburn's recruiting class with anyone, knowing what I know about the state of Alabama and recruiting the high schools here in the state. Auburn couldn't have done a better job than they did.
No doubt about it. We got to get off for TV. But again, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. So we'll sign off on TV. We'll be back with you next time for more Saturday Sports Countdown. So, yeah, continue on, Randy. We'll close out here on social media.
That was it. Just if I've got to finish 5, 6, or 7 in recruiting, but I got 9 of the top 12 from the state of Alabama, and I won some battles with Georgia and Alabama to get the ones that I got from the state, I'm taking that recruiting class over a top 2 or 3 recruiting class right now for Auburn, because we've got to shore up this state, and we're selling a product that's not a good product right now. And to be able to sell that, you're doing something right inside these high schools. So, look, for all the bad vibes that we throw toward Hugh Freeze and this staff with 4 consecutive losing seasons at Auburn, not a single one of them's toward him and his effort when it comes to recruiting here in this state. He's done an amazing job.
I totally agree with you, no doubt. All right, guys, we've been on for 2 hours, so we've had a lot of fun with you this morning. War Eagle to you too, our Stews. We appreciate everybody, all your comments coming in. Randy and I'll be back with you Monday morning for the Auburn Blitz podcast. Our Auburn Blitz shows at noon every day as well. Andy and Jim and myself, Randy, JJ, part of that mix. And then Sports Blitz Live on Tuesday nights. We got Late March Sports Roundup that comes on right before that. So we got all kind of stuff coming your way each and every week. Appreciate it. Go out there and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. Share that information with everybody. We're going to continue to build this up here. So appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend out there, and we'll see you next week.